Speaker.
House resumes and debate continues. Yes, I recognize the parliamentary representative for the Portsmouth constituency. Yes, Honorable Wenham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, permission to refer to my notes during my deliberation.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I was here a little more than 5 months ago, and I pledged my support to education at all levels: early childhood, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Mr. Speaker, I am here again in the House and happy to have the attention of my colleagues on the government side and the opposition, including, Mr. Speaker, all the citizens of the Commonwealth, both here and abroad, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, my constituents. And just in case, Mr. Speaker, you wonder, it is the Portsmouth constituency. Tribute to the late Honorable Michael Mike Douglas and Honorable Roosevelt Rosie Douglas, and salute to His Excellency Ian Douglas, and His Excellency Emmanuel Nanton, both giants of the political landscape of Dominica. And Mr. Speaker, our beloved Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Scary. Mr. Speaker, we have to recognize our people. We didn't just get here. Greetings. Greetings. Greetings, Mr. Speaker, from the people of the Portsmouth constituency. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to rise in support of the proposed budget as outlined by the Honorable Dr. Irving McIntyre. A ministry's motto of excellence, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education is eager to receive high pass rates in implementing its projects, programs, and activities, Mr. Speaker. Work is ongoing, and I want to see 100% pass as we work into this fiscal year and beyond, Mr. Speaker. The project areas, Mr. Speaker, are construction of new schools, rehabilitation of existing school structures, and enhancing school safety net, and the enhancing school safety net programs, Mr. Speaker. And while I speak to these programs, the construction of new schools, we have to be grateful, as I alluded to earlier, and demonstrated, Mr. Speaker, to the People's Republic of China. Thanks to them, we're working towards the construction of our new schools, the Tibo Primary in the Vickers constituency, the Siniku Primary in the Salibia constituency, Kalibishi Primary in the Pebush constituency, Tetmon Primary in the Granby constituency, Belbishope Primary, Mr. Speaker, in the Petit Zavan constituency, and our School of Excellence in the Rosanov constituency, Mr. Speaker, the Goodwill Secondary School, the Lone Secondary School in the construction phase, and also to mention thanks to the Maria Holder Memorial Trust for the early childhood facility at Baroness Scotland Primary in the Vickers constituency. And we have, Mr. Speaker, more than 30 million, I am sure, by the time the project is ended, going into just construction. As we look to rehabilitate our existing structures, we have the Will Strathmore Stephen in the Marigot constituency that is already commissioned. The Grand Bay Primary, it speaks for itself in terms of the constituency. And those works, they are ongoing, Mr. Speaker. We also have the Dominica Grammar School, funded by the Montreal Management Consultants Establishment. We know them as MMCE. We say thanks to them as well. And the Maho Primary, that too is work ongoing, Mr. Speaker. As we look to enhance the school safety net programs, we say thanks to UNICEF and the GPE and other international funding partners, Mr. Speaker, for the Each One Teach One, as we have 12 schools, Mr. Speaker, that will be beneficiaries of this project, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to place on record a heartfelt thank you to all the funding agencies, governments, and partners who confidently come to our aid and assistance to help build our country. In addition to funding, I would like to also thank the contractors, both foreign and local, who day in and day out, in sun or rain, go out in the elements of nature, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that these projects are started, well managed, and completed successfully. Allow me to mention, without fear of contradiction, again, the Montreal Management Consultants Establishment, MMCE, who has been one of our most important partners over the past years and continues to build with us. Mr. Speaker, I want to go back to the school safety net programs that the government of Dominica has and the amount that is spent through the Education Trust Fund. I know my colleague, Minister of Education, will expound further, I am sure. But this program, Mr. Speaker, school registration, just to mention a few of the amounts spent, over 300,000 in school registration. This is assistance, Mr. Speaker, to our students. Payment of school transfer grants for primary to secondary, 3 million and counting. Payment to bus drivers, over 500,000, Mr. Speaker, and the school feeding program, Mr. Speaker, over 100,000. Mr. Speaker, the school feeding program caters for some 39 primary schools, which would amount to about 2,000 students, and in the secondary schools, 5, about 162 students. Mr. Speaker, in total, 44 schools, 2,162 students would receive lunches and breakfast. Mr. Speaker, they benefit from that through a collaboration, and I want to say that word again, collaboration, by the Ministries of Education, Agriculture, and the Environmental Health Department. We also have trained cooks, and they go through a training program annually, Mr. Speaker. That is something to boast about as well, and I'm proud to do that. And one might say, but why is she referring to that, or why is the Ministry of Education referring to that? What it translates to, Mr. Speaker, is that both parents and students are more at ease. The students are now more focused, knowing that they have a healthy, warm meal, and it means to Mr. Speaker that more effort is placed on content, and students' retention increased, thus resulting in more efficient, productive, and even industrious students, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party-led government is investing in infrastructure and its people, its greatest asset, the human resource. And it's doing so by enhancing learning environments for better functionality. all of this money, Mr. Speaker, spent and spending, Mr. Speaker, that is to empower, train, and build capacity for a more productive workforce. Education reform, Mr. Speaker. Education reform is already in the budget, and the human resource team is already at work. We are going to speak with the principals, the teachers, the students, parents, education partners, businesses, and we're going to evaluate the education system on post-primary training to measure employability and its impact on national economic and human resource development, Mr. Speaker. We are going to see how government investing so much money in education translates to better and more productive human capital. In short, a well-trained workforce, Mr. Speaker. All that money spending in education, safe environments, development of skill sets, productive behaviors equals to an equipped and ready workforce, Mr. Speaker. The Labour Party-led government, Katwavai, the Labour Party-led government is working. Mr. Speaker, and not to shame the UWP, now independent, but the Dominican Labour Party-led government, the government is working everywhere, Mr. Speaker. And that is why I made sure to mention the constituencies when I mentioned the projects. Mr. Speaker, now to the Portsmouth constituency and its slice of the pie. But just before that, Mr. Speaker, I want to pay homage to two decorated soldiers. Two decorated soldiers, Mr. Speaker, of the Dominican Labour Party. My boys, Mr. Speaker. Old chap, English Elijah Peter, and Rompel, Vivian Remy. May their souls rest in peace. Now, Mr. Speaker, back to the pie. Mr. Speaker, examine the pie well. Most of us here like dessert, so you know I have to watch it twice. Mr. Speaker, it is cut into 21 pieces, and we get more than half of that, Mr. Speaker, in this fiscal year. And when I say we, I refer to the Portsmouth constituency. Housing, Mr. Speaker, continues to be one of the most critical areas for the constituency, especially since the passage of Hurricane Maria. Since I came into office, I have seen 6 new homes built, roofs renovated, and Mr. Speaker, some constituents have received other forms of housing assistance. Housing remains a top priority for our constituents. That being said, let me mention the completion and commissioning of Judgetown Housing Complex in Glanville, thanks to the government of Dominica and MMC, and the Cotton Hill Housing Complex, thanks to the government of Dominica again and MMC. Mr. Speaker, these past few months have been good, and good for 29 new employees who have been approved for the National Employment Program, the NEP, Mr. Speaker. Jobs, Mr. Speaker, in elderly care, beautification, small business, and a few other areas. People are working, Mr. Speaker. And if this is not a good sign, then I don't know what else could be. I also want to bring Also wanting to bring in the point of the 50 solar lights. Those were approved, Mr. Speaker, for the Portsmouth constituency and awaiting installation. Mr. Speaker, how is our government not serious about agriculture when it wants to invest millions in the sector, Mr. Speaker? I'm not sure. My colleague Minister of Agriculture, he can confirm the exact figures. And agriculture, Mr. Speaker, fisheries, the blue and green economy, this is one of the three major sectors highlighted in the budget. Mr. Speaker, at this point, the Ministry of Agriculture deserves a round of applause. And this applause is for the revamping of the National Youth in Agriculture program. And I want to encourage, Mr. Speaker, I want to encourage them and encourage our young farmers to become engaged, and for some of them to be re-engaged in food production. The Tissue Culture Laboratory in 1 Mile is another great compliment, not only for research, Mr. Speaker, but for the creation of jobs for our people. Sonny, our Chinese counterpart at 1 Mile, and the team are doing great work at that site, Mr. Speaker. And we have met and spoken briefly, but it is my intention to make a formal visit there to understand and also to highlight the project operations. The blue and green economy, Mr. Speaker, it opens a world of possibilities for this island state of ours. As vast as the ocean is, so too the opportunities from the creation of a sperm whale protected area and revenue from visits with swimming with our sperm whales, Mr. Speaker. Portsmouth identified for one of the reserves or the sanctuaries. And like as if that is not enough, Mr. Speaker, I almost do not want to say it, but I have to. The long-awaited for marina. My colleague, Minister here, I am sure, will agree. And need I say more, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, all I can tell you about that marina is more jobs, Mr. Speaker. And we're inviting all of Dominica, once that project begins, to come to Portsmouth. And there's a term I heard throughout the debate, Mr. Speaker. I don't really want to use it. Courtois, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in sense. And
you want to?
In sense,
oh,
Mr.
okay,
Speaker.
okay.
And I'll borrow a word from my colleague's list, Mr. Speaker, perplexed. For sure. And, Mr. Speaker, I have some news, you know. I have some news. I have to show it on this side especially. I have some news from Portsmouth. Mr. Speaker, Portsmouth is not dead. We are alive and we kick in. And I invite the opposition. Now, it's a funny thing for me to say, right? Especially when you look at one particular member of the opposition. But I'm inviting the opposition to come and enjoy and come and experience La Place Heritage and 767 exotic Rasta bread and the beer garden at Marford's house. And I will include the Water's Edge for great dining, Mr. Speaker. The Portsmouth Market, Mr. Speaker, that has a life of its own. From Wednesday, the place is bustling. We have more than 120 vendors at the market, and all of them from the northern constituencies. The fisheries complex is open every day. And from Sunday to Wednesday, Mr. Speaker, just come down Longhouse at our port you'll see life. So I'm not sure where that idea, that fictional, I should say, idea comes that Portsmouth is dead. Dead where? Mr. Speaker, when the boys roll in on their bikes, they must come to Portsmouth. They must. And when they come to the Purple Turtle Beach area, Mr. Speaker. I see passion, Mr. Speaker, passion. I see me de parler. You know, Mr. Speaker. And the Bellon Beach spot, Mr. Speaker. Sometimes I go there and I can't even get a place to park. There's so many bikes, so many vehicles. And again, my colleague minister here, Honorable Roy, can attest to those things. Right? National football matches being played at the Benjamin's Park, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, if you come there tomorrow, I hope you can find a place to play one of your favorite sports. Or you may just have to join either a cricket team there already, or the football, or the rounders. Right, Mr. Speaker, or run some track. And Mr. Speaker, while all of that is happening, pizza selling, tonight you must find some grilled fish on the Benjamin's Park, Mr. Speaker.
10 more minutes.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you for that reminder. And Mr. Speaker, silence is a funny thing and it can be misinterpreted. But let me just explain Portsmouth's silence. It is that we are at work. When we work, but when we play hard. That's right. And Mr. Speaker, all of this ties, if we go to the ice cream part now, we have the karaoke with the ice cream. So we can leave it there for now. So Mr. Speaker, all of this ties into improvements in our tourism sector with site enhancement and the buying into the community tourism vibes by our people, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's go to the field of play. The Portsmouth constituency is no stranger to sports and have produced top sportsmen and women over the years. To date, we can boast of Denick Luke. Recently, he had a bronze medal, Mr. Speaker, in the NACAC Championships, and he's now the national record holder in the men's 800 meters, Mr. Speaker. To foster and prepare our athletes for even better results, the government, Mr. Speaker, has started work on the tennis and netball courts. That project is over $300,000, Mr. Speaker, and this is just the beginning. Mr. Speaker, one of the most anticipated projects for Portsmouth, for the North even, is the administrative building. Mr. Speaker, more than $35 million is expected to be spent on this building in Portsmouth, but one that will serve the North. Mr. Speaker, some do not understand how that converts to savings for a family, Mr. Speaker, and revenue for a number of small businesses in the constituency. Mr. Speaker, they do not have to pay a bus to come down into Roseau for one document, Mr. Speaker. I will now move, Mr. Speaker, to support to small and medium-sized enterprises. The small businesses, Mr. Speaker. Over 24 million in support to our small businesses. And if no one else does, Mr. Speaker, the Portsmouth constituency understands well what my colleague, the Minister of Finance, means when he says that Dominica is run by small businesses. Mr. Speaker, we take our small businesses so seriously that a series of small business forums were held, which resulted, Mr. Speaker, in the setup of a small business desk in the Portsmouth constituency's office to provide assistance to those intending or already operating a small business and want to develop it further. Gratitude must be given to Mr. Philip Roll and the Dominica Youth Business Trust, and to Mr. Danny Joseph and the Small Business Unit. Mr. Speaker, as I wrap up, I would like to mention that I have met with Operations Manager, Mr. Ross Balboni, and the President, Mr. Carrie James of the American Canadian School of Medicine, formerly Ross University. And I am very pleased with the work that have started and continues for September 2023. September 2023 opening. It is my dream to see this university back to its former glory, where business was booming for landlords, restaurants, taxis. The signs are up, the flags are up, the paint has changed, and I see power washing happening daily, Mr. Speaker. I want to reaffirm my commitment to the American Canadian School of Medicine, who have already employed 9 locals directly and 11 outsourced indirect employments. And Mr. Speaker, to say congratulations to Secret Bay, who, as recent as June, opened up new villas employing 122 people from the constituency and the neighboring, and is poised to open up 4 more villas by the year's end, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I love the sound of that. Jobs, 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 Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thanks to my people in the Portsmouth constituency. Thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister for his visionary leadership. Mr. Speaker, the government is focused. It's focused on its people and delivering in love, Mr. Speaker. May God bless us all, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, I recognize the Honorable Minister, Parliamentary Representative for the
Thank you very much,
yes.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Mabrika, I can translate that. That means basically hello in Kalinago language. So I could translate that for sure. Mabrika to the fellow parliamentarians here, and especially to Prime Minister Honorable Jules Skerrit. And congratulations is due to Honorable Dr. McIntyre, and as I support this budget presented this year. We will definitely continue to work during the course of 2023-2024 to do the work we started off in 2019 as a young parliamentarian. It's very clear that we achieved a lot in the last financial year, and so I'm happy to be given the opportunity to share on some of the achievements, and also to share on the way forward for the Salbe constituency, and also for the ministry I am entrusted with, the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment. So, Mr. Speaker, we have spent a significant amount of resources on human capacity development, and also on infrastructural development.